Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Raja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Raja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Raja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Raja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Raja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Haribo, 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 Goda Haribo. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta-koti Vaishnava-vrinda ki jai, Shri Radha Gopinatha ki jai, Grantharaj Śrīmad Chaitanya-charitamrita ki jai, Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uttapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Radhanatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitam Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhaktivedanta Swami iti namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Shatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostete. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari. Jai Śrī Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta-vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Jaya Jaya Śrī Caitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Jaya Śrī Caitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta-vrinda. Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta-vrinda. Jaya Jaya Śrī Caitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Jaya Śrī Caitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta-vrinda. Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta-vrinda. Jaya Jaya Śrī Caitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Jaya Śrī Caitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta-vrinda. Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta-vrinda. Good morning, everyone. This morning we're reading from Śrī Caitanya-charitamrita of Krishnadas Kaviraj. The Antya-lila, this is chapter 16, the Lord tastes nectar. And the verse written for us to chant is verse 98, is that right? Kṛṣṇera Jai bhukta-śeṣa. Okay. I was told we were starting with verse 50, but why not 98? It's all nectar. Start with 50.
Well, if you were prepared.
I don't know how prepared I was. That's another matter. But let's see.
Last week we discussed 50 till 97.
Oh, you did discuss. Ah, I see. Well then, let's go with 98 and see where it takes us. Yeah. Kṛṣṇera Jai bhukta-śeṣa tāra phelā-nāma. Kṛṣṇera Jai bhukta-śeṣa tāra phelā-nāma. Tāra ekkalabha Jai pāya Śrī bhāgyavān. Tāra ekkalabha Jai pāya Śrī bhāgyavān. Kṛṣṇera Jai bhukta-śeṣa tāra phelā-nāma. Tāra ekkalabha Jai pāya Śrī bhāgyavān.
Kṛṣṇera Jai bhukta-śeṣa tāra phelā-nāma.
Kṛṣṇera Jai bhukta-śeṣa tāra phelā-nāma.
Tāra ekkalabha Jai pāya Śrī bhāgyavān.
Tāra ekkalabha Jai pāya Śrī bhāgyavān.
Kṛṣṇera Jai bhukta-śeṣa tāra phelā-nāma.
Kṛṣṇera Jai bhukta-śeṣa tāra phelā-nāma.
Tāra ekkalabha Jai pāya Śrī bhāgyavān.
Tāra ekkalabha Jai pāya Śrī bhāgyavān.
Kṛṣṇera Jai bhukta-śeṣa tāra phelā-nāma.
Kṛṣṇera Jai bhukta-śeṣa tāra phelā-nāma.
Tāra ekkalabha Jai pāya
bhukta-śeṣa tāra phelā-nāma.
Kṛṣṇera bhukta-śeṣa tāra phelā-nāma.
Kṛṣṇera of Lord Kṛṣṇa. Jai, whatever. Bhukta-śeṣa, remnants of food. Tāra, of that. Phelā-nāma, the name is phelā. Tāra, of that. Ekka, one. Lava, fragment. Jai, one who. Pāya, gets. Śrī, he. Bhāgyavān, fortunate. Translation: remnants left by Krishna are called phelā. Anyone who obtains even a small portion must be considered very fortunate. It's interesting, we don't find this word phelā in our communities. We don't talk about Krishna phelā, do we? Krishna prasadam, yes, but Krishna phelā. This is interesting. Okay, this chapter, there's a lot of discussion about prasadam in this chapter, which is called The Lord Tastes Nectar. And I should back up a little to get some context for those of us who were not here last Sunday. Yes, I'll just go to verse 93, and from there. To Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu, the prasadam tasted millions upon millions of times better than nectar, and thus he was fully satisfied. The hair all over his body stood on end, and incessant tears flowed from his eyes. Imagine having that response to taking prasadam. Your hair standing on end, and incessant tears flowing from your eyes. That would be something, huh? Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu considered, where has such a taste in this prasadam come from? Certainly, it is due to its having been touched by the nectar of Krishna's lips. I believe he's taking prasadam from Lord Jagannath. Is that right? Yeah. So he's in Puri and he's taking Jagannath prasadam. How many of you have been in Jagannath Puri? And you've had Jagannath prasadam. If you've been in Puri and you didn't take Jagannath prasadam, there was something seriously wrong with your journey to Puri. Did you know that when you take Jagannath prasad, you should not be sitting on any asana? You're supposed to be, bow down, mister. You're supposed to be on the ground, basically. That's what I've heard. Okay, where was I? Understanding this, Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu felt an emotion of ecstatic love for Krishna, but upon seeing the servants of Lord Jagannath, he restrained himself. The Lord said again and again, "Only by great fortune may one come by a particle of the remnants of food offered to the Lord." The servants of the Jagannath temple inquired, "What is the meaning of this?" And there's a short purport in which Prabhupada quotes the verse, which you all know, Mahaprasade Govinde Namne Brahmani Vaishnave Svalpapunya Vatang Rajan Vishvaso Naiva Jayate. Persons who are not very highly elevated in pious activities cannot believe in the remnants of food, prasadam, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, nor in Govinda, the holy name of the Lord, nor in the Vaishnavas. Then Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu replied, "These are remnants of food that Krishna has eaten and thus turned to nectar with his lips. It surpasses heavenly nectar, and even such demigods as Lord Brahma find it difficult to obtain." This is one particular feature of our culture of prasadam, which in a sense differs from what might be a more traditional understanding in India. We always have, plates of prasadam, full plates, if not buckets. We have, mountains of halava, and at least when we are younger, we have this. And so on. We have no lack, no sense of lack of prasadam. But the traditional idea is if you can just get a little morsel of this prasadam, you're good. You're back home, back to Godhead, basically. And so it's honored as a very special and rare thing. Because we get the big quantities, we might not appreciate in the same way. I remember one time I was in Jaipur at the Radha Govinda Dev temple, and after darshan, I went to the little booth on the left side from the altar. There's a place where you can buy prasadam. So I purchased something for a few rupees, and I sort of just turned around, and there was a whole crowd standing around me with their hands out. And I was kind of doubly amazed. I was amazed at their appreciation of prasadam, of course, but also I was struck by the fact that here they were appreciating to receive prasadam even from an outsider, even from, a mlecha, from someone not of the, we say, Vedic tradition. That was not a problem for them, it seems. So they were all there, as eager as ever to get a morsel of prasad. So that prasad, which I thought I was getting, I was by myself. I was alone, and I thought, I'm getting, one laddu I will have as my breakfast. But no, it was not to be. Mahaprabhu says, these are remnants of food that Krishna has eaten and thus turned to nectar with his lips. It surpasses heavenly nectar, and even such demigods as Lord Brahma find it difficult to obtain. You may wonder, why would Lord Brahma find it difficult to obtain? Good question. Why would he find it difficult? You'd think he's controller of the universe. He can get prasad anytime he wants, but apparently not. And then we just read, remnants left by Krishna are called phelā. Anyone who obtains even a small portion, lava, must be considered very fortunate. I guess we're very fortunate. Are we feeling fortunate? One who is only ordinarily fortunate cannot obtain such mercy. Only persons who have the full mercy of Krishna can receive such remnants. Okay, one maybe a footnote more than anything else is this word prasadam. We like this word. We are prasadam religion, kitchen religion. The word prasada, and we often pronounce it prasad because we like to sound Bengali. Sanskrit would be prasada. And this comes from sada, but with pra as a strengthening prefix. And it has a broad sense of clearness. Clearness or brightness or calmness. And from that then we get a sense of satisfaction. So satisfaction of the Lord. Or graciousness. Or kindness. It can also mean kindness and favor. And now we're starting to get closer to what we understand from what we like to put in our mouths, that kind of prasadam. It's the favor of the Lord. But we all know it has this broader sense also of satisfaction. And we sing every morning, Yasya prasada, bhagavat prasado, Yasya prasada nagati kutopi. By satisfying the devotee, the guru, the spiritual master, the Lord is satisfied. And the inverse is also the case. Not satisfying guru, good luck. Satisfying the Lord. So that idea of favor of the Lord, the broader sense, which we want to obtain, certainly, and which is no ordinary thing, we also understand to be fortune. Well, let's see. Do we want to go further, or do we want... Okay, let's go further. Sukriti Shabde. Okay, now he's going to talk about this idea of Sukriti. Sukriti Shabde kahe Krishna kripa hetu punya she janro hoy phelā pai she danya. The word Sukriti refers to pious activities performed by the mercy of Krishna. One who is fortunate enough to obtain such mercy receives the remnants of the Lord's food and thus becomes glorious. So this is all spoken by Lord Chaitanya. And sort of ending this section, we may say, it goes on to say, after saying this, Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu bade farewell. He said goodbye to all the servants, that is, the servants of Lord Jagannath. After seeing the next offering of food to Lord Jagannath, a function known as Uppalabhoga, he returned to his own quarters. As we know, Jagannath likes to eat. It's said that he receives how many food offerings? I don't know how many food offerings. It's he does receive this 56 preparations. Whether those are spread over the day or whether they're in one offering, I'm not sure. We need a Jagannath expert to tell us these details. But Lord Jagannath likes to eat. In fact, that's the special kind of service that's done for the Lord in his form as Jagannath. If you have deities at home of Jagannath, and if you're not feeding them a lot, that may explain any troubles you're having in your life. In any case, Jagannath, he is the Jagat Nata. He is the Lord of the Jagat. And as such, this is his special inclination. And we get a lot of discussion in the Chaitanya-charitamrita about food, about prasadam, especially about eating, spiritual eating. It's one of the major components of devotional life for the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. It's hard for us to imagine life without prasadam, isn't it? I mean, put everything together that we have in our devotional lives, Śrī Radhadesh Jaya, and subtract prasadam from that, and how many devotees are left in the temple? Prasadam is what sustains us physically, of course, we understand. In fact, this is the resolve of the Vaishnava. I will only eat food which is offered to the Lord. That is one of the, not exactly austerities. It's an austerity in a sense, but it's not it's a nice austerity. It's a sweet, it's a nectar austerity. That resolve is there. And this is, this practice of devotion, of prasad seva, is so much celebrated in the Chaitanya-charitamrita. So many pastimes have to do with prasadam, including there are pastimes, whether here or in the Bhagavatam or related literature. I'm thinking of the pastime, the sort of activity that's sometimes done with prasadam, namely hiding prasadam. Have you ever hidden prasadam because you were hoarding it? You were hoarding prasadam. I know you were hoarding prasadam sometime in your life. Confess. Yeah? So you wanted all the nectar for yourself. Well, that was not the case of Sudama Brahmana. He brought something which wasn't particularly, it wasn't considered something very special. It was just some chipped rice, some broken flat rice or chipped rice, which it wasn't even from his household. It was from his wife went out and begged it from the neighbors. And then this small amount that he managed to get from his wife, small enough that he could roll it up into some cloth and put in his dhoti. You wouldn't even notice it. And he was really kind of embarrassed about this as he went to see Lord Kṛṣṇa. His interest was to see Lord Kṛṣṇa. And he practically forgot about having this bhoga offering with him. But Rukmini Devi knew. She saw through the situation. She said, "You have brought something, I believe." "Yes, yes, come on, out with it." And so he brings out, and Krishna takes a morsel, and then what does Rukmini Devi do? She said, "That's enough. That's enough. You've had enough, Krishna. If you take any more, that's going to be a problem." Why is that going to be a problem? Because then the obligation that you, or rather I, have to him is going to be too much to manage. So that's enough. Another example of hiding prasadam, of course, in the Chaitanya-charitamrita, we're all familiar with, is Chira Gopinath's hiding of prasadam. Kuliya actually is the name that's given to that particular preparation. How many of you have been to Remuna? And don't tell me you went to Remuna and you did not take the Kuliya offering prasadam? No, of course not. If you've not been to Remuna, 50% of your life is wasted. Hare Krishna. The nectar of this Kuliya offering, I can vouch, is very, very, very special. Would you agree, Maharaj? Would you say so? Yeah. Yeah.
It's more than very special.
I have spoken inadequately. Yeah. So, and we know that story. Chira Gopinath has acted as a thief. In what way was he a thief? I mean, what did he do really? He didn't. I mean, what did he do? The offering that was made by the priest, we could say it wasn't at all Gopinath's fault that one of the pots of this Kuliya was remained. It could be just that the priest was, he was spaced out. He didn't count. I mean, come on. You have 12 pots, I think it was 12, that he offered. Surely he should have counted when he took them off the altar. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's not very difficult, but he seems to have spaced out. Or the Lord arranged for him to be spaced out. Yeah, I mean, we can't blame the priest, right? It could be that the priest had other things on his mind. What did he have on his mind? We can only speculate, but maybe he should have been more focused on his service, but maybe he had some concern. His family management, who knows what. But in any case, Gopinath received this reputation as being a thief. Just for letting one pot, not telling his priest, "Hey, you forgot one pot." Until later, he told him, he woke him up. He dreamed, he woke up, and so on. You forgot one of the pots. And of course, there's another thing that goes on. Speaking of theft, we can say it. And this is another feature of prasadam. Sometimes it gets stolen. Did you ever have prasadam? Did you ever steal prasadam? Come on, confess. Truth. Let's get the truth now. You have stolen prasadam sometime, I know. Yes, this is authorized theft, I have to say. Speaking from the Vyasa-san, It is bona fide. In certain circumstances, we have to be careful. We can't always generalize completely. But the general point of prasadam is that it is something special. It is mercy. It is it is a vehicle. Even anthropologists will say that prasadam is a vehicle for exchanges of love. Now, if we think about this, what I want to suggest is that we go a step further and think about the whole cycle. You know, we're fortunate here. We have this amazing garden developing here. We also have amazing cows, one of whom, Bhumi Devi, gives lots of milk. So fortunate we are. And yet, I think, in recent months, if not the last couple of years, we started thinking, gosh, we need to really think more seriously about, providing for ourselves, being independent of the global food situation, the global food system. I always wonder when there's some pineapple, for example, in the prasadam. I think, wow, this is really nice. Did we grow this here? No. Where did the pineapple come from? I don't know. Came from the shop. And how did the shop get it? The shop also doesn't know. It came from somewhere on the other side of the planet. Oh, very nice. How did it get here? Well, it came by ship. Right. Was it a sailboat? No, I don't think it was a sailboat. I think it was a ship that runs on oil. Oh, it was on oil. Interesting. Wonder how long we're going to have this oil available before the price goes through the ceiling. And so we think and reflect on and wonder, and maybe we do something also about it, that could we do more growing of the food which we offer to Krishna ourselves. And I'm inclined to think that the more we can do that, the more we will appreciate just how fortunate we are to have that prasadam. I think devotees I've heard from, and I have to say, it's like that. Not that I'm just talking about it. I'm not doing it. So, what can this guy say? But devotees who grow their own food and then offer it to Krishna, they say this is very special. Isn't it? These tomatoes, this cauliflower, it's grown in my garden. It sometimes doesn't quite work out, the gardening with the best of intentions. I always remember Mother Vishaka Devi telling how years ago she was living at the Sharanagati farm in 3 hours out from Vancouver, and she and her husband had a nice little garden there in the country. It's very wild country. There's big forests, and she was growing carrots. And one evening, she looked at her carrot garden. She said, "Tomorrow I'm going to harvest the carrots." She came out the next morning to harvest her carrots, only to find that they had all every carrot had already been harvested by the bears. Hare Krishna. So that also can happen, which would cause one to think more about how fortunate one is if one can grow something to harvest it before the bears get it, to offer it to give to Krishna, to offer to Krishna. That how wonderful that tastes. This is to think in broader terms of the cycle of food. How everything is so much dependent. Our lives are dependent on food. And of course, Krishna speaks about a cosmic cycle involving food. In Bhagavad Gita, Anna bhavanti bhutani parjanyat anna sambhavan yagya bhavati parjanyo yagya karma samudbhava karma brahmodbhavam vidhi brahmakshara samudbhavam tasmat sarvagatam brahma nityam yagye pratishtitam. He says that yagya is always situated in transcendence, and through yagya, anna, which Prabhupada translates as food grains, is ultimately coming. We know that, we're familiar with that, and we conclude therefore, okay, yagya, what is our yagya? Sankirtan yagya. Absolutely true, no doubt about it. And I would suggest, it's nice, I think, that we think more about something which Prabhupada not only thought about, but spoke a lot about, and that is the importance of farming. That as communities we want to develop the whole cycle from beginning to end, and back to the beginning again. Krishna says then in the next verse, Evam pravartitam chakram na anavartayati haya agayur indriya ramo mogam partas sajivati. A person lives, jivati, moga, uselessly unless one is engaged in that cycle, pravartita chakra. Na anavartayati, if one is not involved and engaged in that cycle, then it doesn't look good for one's human existence. I'll just maybe come to an end with a nice three nice quotes which give us another insight into the mood of the devotee who is not receiving prasadam but is offering prasadam, is offering bhoga. It's nice to hear that there's going to be a nice prasadam hall here. The prasadam tent is going to be transformed in mystical ways into a real prasadam hall, or bhojanalaya, as it can also be called. And what is facilitating that, we understand this entire cycle, the center of which is not which, but whom, is Krishna himself. And we want to remember, as we're offering food, bhoga, as we call it, to Krishna, the mood in which we want to offer. And so these verses give us a very nice idea of how we might make such offering. These verses come from Srila Rupa Goswami's Padyavali, and they are quoted in the Padati, the daily service procedure of the Radharaman temple in Vrindavan. So in their temple, their pujaris are directed to recite these verses. I'll just read the translations in English. O enemy of Mura, Krishna, that love which is invested in the food offered by Vidura to you, in the things offered by Kunti, which is contained in the food offered by the residents of Raja on top of Govardhan, which is in the flat rice offered by Sudama, which is in the breast milk of Yashoda, which is in the 56-item offering of Bharadvaj Muni, which is in the offering of berries by the tribal woman, which is in the nectar of the Vraj milkmaid's lips, which is in the food offered by the wives of the Yajnik Brahmins, kindly imbue my offering to you with such love. So it's a nice reflection, memory, connection of the mood in which all these devotees are making offerings to Krishna, and the prayer is, may my offering similarly have such love. It's nice, isn't it? Shall I read another? Yes. O enemy of Mura, as you found pleasure in the devotion of the Brahmin's wives, in the delicacies offered by Vidura, in the milk of the Raja's cows, in the offering found in the open fist of your friend Sudama, in the breast of Yashoda, in the nectar offered by the girls of Raja, so may you be pleased with this gift. So this is kind of the same prayer, but shifting the attention to Krishna's pleasure. And then finally, may the pleasure you find in the milk offered by Shyamala, the sweets offered by Kamala, the laddu offered by Bhadra, and the nectar offered by Somabha. Who is Somabha? That's Chandravali. May this nectar be had by you 100-fold in my offering placed before you, prepared under the order of Radha. So the mood is, I'm preparing this under the order of Radha, and because I'm preparing under the order of Radha, it is being blessed by her, and so it should be pleasing to you, O Lord, and as it will be pleasing to you, then you may be so kind to possibly leave some of it, just a little remnant for us. Don't be surprised if one day you make a bhoga offering to the Lord and you make your nice prayers and so on, and then you go some separate place so the Lord can eat peacefully with his associates, and then after some time you come back. Don't be surprised if the plate is empty. Don't be angry. What, Krishna, you didn't leave anything for me. No, you should be most joyful. The Lord has accepted my offering. Now, if it's all there on the plate just as you left it, you may have a doubt. Did Krishna actually accept my offering? Prabhupada reassures us, yes, Krishna is so kind. He has accepted that offering. Why? Because you've offered it with love, with devotion, bhaktya. Patram pushpam palam toyam yo me bhaktya prayachati tadaham bhakti paritam. Ashnami, Krishna says, I will accept it. Ashnami. He actually says, I will eat, I will consume. But he consumes and then he leaves it all there for us as well. And that's the kindness of the Lord. What we're reading here is that we should, and we maybe occasionally need this reminder, how fortunate we are. Chaitanya Mahāprabhu was feeling himself, he is God himself. He was feeling so fortunate that the hairs on his body were standing on end as he was taking Jagannath Prasadam. Jagannath Prasadam ki jai, Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu ki jai, Hare Krishna. Any further comments, prasadam meditations? It's a time of day when devotees start to think about more than just thinking about prasadam, but in any case. Any? Yes, sir. Your good name? Jayaraman.
I was wondering, because you spoke also about the farm communities,
Mm-hmm.
and we saw a boom at one point, and we see like ups and downs,
Mm-hmm.
like that's the future. What can we learn from the past and what? That.
Start over. Huh? No, it's nice if you speak in the microphone. Yeah. What can we learn from... Oh, I thought you were going to say something more. So what can we learn from the past experiences of our society as a whole regarding farms? I think there's a lot to learn, and one of the first lessons we have is to be a little humble and recognize that there are persons, many persons, who are really knowledgeable about farming, and we can learn from them. We have a tendency to think, oh, because we know Krishna, therefore we know everything. It says in Bhagavad Gita, one who knows Krishna knows everything. Therefore I know all about farming, because I know Krishna. Yes, but because you know everything, because you know Krishna, you therefore also know to ask someone who has specialized knowledge about a particular practice, one of which is farming. And so I think this is an area we can learn a lot about from a lot of experienced people. That's one thing. A second thing we can learn is to be a little more cautious and to plan a little more carefully. A lot of what we've seen, some of what we've seen in the past in farm development has been without careful planning and lots of enthusiasm perhaps, but not so much planning. And that can, farming is long term, and it's actually it's a science, it's an art. From what I see, it's a skill which takes a lot of meditation to do it right. Gardening, farming, caring for cows. All these things takes lots of attention. It's not It's not just, okay, now we're going to have a farm. And now we will plant people on the farm to farm. Doesn't quite work that way. So a lot of what we've seen in the past has been somewhat rajasic, and we want to become more sattvic. But as you mentioned, there's been ups and downs, and there's, I believe, something of an upward trend now, developing with a more thoughtful and careful process of development. Whether it's fast enough is also a question, though, and it may vary from one place to another. There is this sort of, I don't know what it's called, not a resolution, but there's this directive or something from the GBC that we should be seeing how to come to the point where we can have sufficient go raksha, care of cows, that we can have all the milk for the deities coming from our own cows. And so we're working on that. The Ministry for Cow Protection and Agriculture is quite focused on it, and I'm trying also to help here in Europe and other devotees. It's a process, and it's very nice to see. We have this beautiful barn here now for the cows. 15 cows capacity, I understand. So that's a nice step forward. Yeah. There's a ministry that's looking into all of this. Earlier there was no such thing as a ministry, and ministry has a minister, and the minister, I think, is very qualified in this way. But it's ongoing work. There are conferences of the ministry that happen, and various programs are developing, including courses. So the first course that's now almost ready is a course in Goshala management. If anybody's interested in learning how to manage a Goshala, there is a course, and it will soon be launched. There is then a more general course, a more introductory course in the culture of cow protection, meant for a wider congregation and so on. These things are coming. Only time is separating us, as Prabhupada would say. So it's nice to also be thinking in that direction, rather than just sort of thinking everything is the way it is, and we simply depend on the supermarkets and so on. What if we think in a different way, which, as I'm suggesting, Prabhupada was quite, some would say he was adamant. You know this word, adamant? Especially in the later part of his presence with us. He was adamant on this point. Better late than never. We can go in this direction. There's a lot of also literature on the broader subject of world economy in the context of what we're seeing happening in terms of climate change and so on. And one book that I'm reading now is called A Small Farm Future, with a long subtitle, but it's a very analytical, well-researched book by a scholar who is also a farmer. So he's not just, ivory tower, but he's talking from experience, and he's avoiding very carefully the sort of romanticism, which is often the tone of a lot of this sort of writing, that, oh, how wonderful, we will all just have small farms, and we will see Mr. and Mrs. Farmer smiling into the camera with the pitchfork, that painting. So not that sort of romanticism. It's very analytical about just how and why small farms really do seem to be the future for this planet. And what that means, the author explains, is there's going to have to be more work. Farm work is work. Pandu Vijaya is nodding, knowing well what we're talking about. But he said it's not going to be it doesn't have to be slavery, it doesn't have to be drudgery. If it's done intelligently, it can actually be very nice and inspiring. Yes, Purnatata. Now we get on the farm topic.
I remember maybe 20-25 years ago there were reports all around the world how deities were drinking milk. Literally, that milk was disappearing from cups. I think even from ISKCON temples. Do you know something more about it?
I can say only that that's a very interesting sociological phenomenon. That suddenly this seemed to be the case. Krishna may have been playing along with some desire of some people, or many people, to reassure that that indeed he is accepting offerings. And so if Krishna wants to make that happen, I believe the whole story began with some Ganesh deity, and someone was spooning milk in. I never really got into that. I thought it was an interesting sociological phenomenon, personally. Because it started with one person, and then suddenly it's all over the world. Everyone's seeing this. Okay, nice. Why not? Hare Krishna.
There were even
Hare Krishna.
videos.
Yeah, there were videos.
I just noticed, I was listening to your lecture at my home. So, and I feel an obligation to tell a little story, a little anecdote with Govinda Maharaj, if you allow.
Please, yes.
Because I have some kind of difficulty with my hip, and sometimes a nerve gets twisted in between, and then I had to make a special move.
Yes, whatever.
Yeah, so that it went out. So one day, that happened again, and then for 3 days I couldn't move. I was lying in my bed, and then one disciple of Govinda Maharaj, Krishna Prabhu, he came just from Puri, and so he saw me lying, and we were talking, and then at the one moment he said, I have got some Mahaprasādam for Govinda Maharaj, so would you like to have something? And I was thinking, well, everything what helps, yeah, because I was in a very suffering situation.
Whatever helps.
Yeah. So, and then he took out of his bag, he took a little piece of silver paper, and he was opening it, and he gave me one piece of rice grain. So, and I put it on my hand, and then in the meanwhile, he was speaking with Chaitanya-charitamrita, so I put the grain in my mouth, and on that moment, the nerve went free. So it was a great relief for me. So
Prasadam cure. Yeah, this is something we should be advertising. Prasadam can cure hip nerve problems.
because you spoke about the Sudan Brahman with this
Yeah.
little bag of
Yeah, yeah.
rice. So
Yeah.
even one grain, I was thinking,
Yeah.
even one grain can be very powerful if it is prasad.
Yes, very good, indeed. Prabhupada, in a slightly different context, he was talking about medicine in general. The question came up to him about Ayurveda. One devotee wanted to study Ayurveda, and Prabhupada was not really encouraging him. Yeah, that's okay, but we have other things to do. And Prabhupada said about medicine in general, he said, whatever works. Whatever works. Prabhupada was highly practical. So in this case, a grain of maha prasad rice grain worked for you. So that's very nice. Krishna, Krishna. Okay. Anything else? Yes.
I just wanted to say, I just wanted to express my gratitude for hearing you speak about gardening and farming in the way that we should do, because my main service here is in the garden.
Yes.
And it's something I feel very strongly about, and I also feel sometimes it's like the awareness of where our food and then our offering to Krishna comes from is lacking a bit within the devotee world.
Yeah.
So it's so refreshing to hear you speak on the subject. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it can be part of our meditation on prasad as we're taking prasadam, just to ask ourselves, where did this come from? Where did this food come from? And of course, ultimately it comes from Krishna, but we can also be thinking, where did it come from but in between? What were the stations of this substance, this food's coming and then being prepared and so on? It can be very nice to have that reflection. Yeah, thank you.
On the question of our evolving relationship with prasadam throughout our life, physically and our devotional life, because obviously most of us remember our first prasadam, and I think it was a few times it shut me up for about an hour. I was just thinking, what was that? What was that? What was just... And I was thinking in relation to the Holy...
Part of it was intoxication on so much sugar and heat.
But I was thinking, we all know our relationship with prasadam changes. One, our bodies change, it gets older. So there's a natural evolution there. But I also know the appreciation is definitely, I think, question not... Yeah. I look at prasadam with a very different eye now than I did then. I was like so excited, give me anything. Now I'm like, look at that's not done right. And especially as a cook or as a devotee, we all get, our critical tendency seems to increase. And I was thinking, could the same parallel, as we say with the holy name, I always like this point from Remnants Prabhu, that we start chanting on the Nama Bas stage because we're so excited about the chanting, we're so open for it. Then we get familiar, and then we drop the Nam Aparad stage. Could it be the same with prasadam? We actually start eating prasadam on a very offense-free stage, but yet later on we go into prasadabhasa. Prasadabhasa. Yes. And then we turn into prasad aparad, because especially as a cook.
Prasad aparad.
Because as a cook, I find myself getting quite sensitive. Devotees criticize prasadam a lot, and it seems to be quite we heard that about a devotee, so you really can't say that about a devotee. But we do have a fairly relaxed culture about having heavy opinions about prasadam, and therefore I wonder, it's justified to some degree, a lot of devotees, and then some degree is it have I lost something that I had at the beginning?
Yeah, good point, and I think that's a whole seminar, and I think you're the person to lead that seminar, being the expert cook that you are, and having the direct experience from both sides, as a cook, hearing devotees' responses and yourself responding and experiencing. But I think you bring up good points, and it's certainly something we want to be careful about, not to become prasādaparadis. Yes, one of my godbrothers, the late Gunagrahi Goswami, once composed the 10 pizza aparats. Anyway, Hare Krishna. So, thank you for bringing that up. Yes, Rick.
Being on the subject, I've got some Jagannath Prasadam.
Jagannath Prasadam you're bringing.
Chips, rice,
Do you have enough for everyone? Do you have enough for everyone?
Everyone gets very little.
Okay, thank you. No, not here, outside. Yeah. Okay, so thank you all very much. Have a wonderful day today, and thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for your attention. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Śrī Caitanya-charitamrita ki jai, Gaur Prem Namaste.